House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. They're celebrating the passage of that nearly $2 trillion COVID-19 relief package. Let's bring in ABC News political director Rick Klein now for more on what this means moving forward. Rick, on the one hand, this is a big victory for President Biden, his first big legislative win. But on the other hand, he's a president who promised bipartisanship, yet didn't get a single Republican to support this bill.
Diane, I'm struck by the language you just heard there from Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, a promise kept. Of course, there were a lot of promises that were made, including the promise to bipartisanship that wasn't part of this. And I think even more critically now, keeping the promise is going to mean rolling this bill out, enacting this legislation, showing the American people that it's helping along the way. Those, I think, are the measuring sticks, much more than passing a bill. When those checks go out, when the money is available, when the vaccines either are or aren't available to all Americans, when the country can say that COVID-19 is a thing of the past, that is the keeping of the promise. And it's almost trite to say it, that the hard work starts now, but because it was so tough to even get to this point. But approving a bill versus enacting a massive $1.9 trillion piece of legislation and showing people that it's good government working for people, that is a monumental challenge that just now begins.
And Rick, let me pick up on the issue of bipartisanship. First, do you have a sense of how much it matters to voters? I mean, we see that this bill has a lot of support, even though it has no formal Republican support in Congress. It's got a lot of support across the country. So what does this mean for President Biden's agenda going forward, given that?
And on that point, Terry, we've seen a bunch of different polling outfits ask the question a little bit differently. And it turns out if you put Biden's name on it, this very popular piece of legislation becomes a little less popular because people retreat to their partisan corners. So, of course, partisanship is a piece of this. But we are seeing broadly about the elements of this bill, popularity around the idea of helping people, of bringing vaccines, bring help for restaurants and businesses, help for individuals, the child tax credit. Those are all enormously popular things writ large. Now, the question about whether it's outweighed by other economic harm, long-term national debt problems, also the other pieces of the bill that are kind of broader social programs that liberals have long wanted and see this as an opportunity for, you can message around that as well. I think the goal of bipartisanship, while I think people will always say it's an important thing, the calculation here among Democrats and President Biden and the White House was that's not worth the price of admission, that it's better to go big and to go big in the way that they feel like is appropriate rather than be able to say, look, we've got some Republicans on board as well. And they think the American people will back that up if COVID is indeed in the rearview mirror.
And Rick, the question now looms, what's next for the Biden agenda? Some have said to go after infrastructure to try to get a bit more bipartisan support. But immigration is a huge issue. It's one that Democrats want to take on. Now, sources have confirmed to ABC News that the number of children detained at the southern border has hit a record high. And yet the White House is still refusing to call this a crisis. So, one, what's the logic in not using that term to describe what's happening? And more importantly, how is the administration addressing this?
Well, I think the label is something that they're looking to avoid because just invoking that gives a sense that of maybe panic that I don't think is appropriate for the moment. The question for the White House now is how you message around this and how you unwind all of these policies. We can talk about immigration as a big issue. We have an issue, though, of would-be immigrants who are arriving all the time, looking for various pieces of the government to help them out. When you had the previous president put in a range of complicated policies that try to do the exact opposite of what President Biden is trying to do. I think, though, in terms of prioritizing the next piece of legislation, there was a lot of things that have to be done and need to be done and can be done through the administrative process that have not been done yet on immigration before you talk about a bipartisan or even a partisan overhaul of the laws. I don't think that's in the cards right now. There are things you can do like legalizing the so-called Dreamers as one-off pieces of legislation, but there's so much right now. I think you're just seeing this as being the biggest operational challenge for the Biden White House. How do you undo everything that Trump did and try to keep a functioning border and a functioning immigration system moving forward? Whether or not you call it a crisis, people's lives are being impacted every day. The label, I think, is secondary to the policies.
They sure are. Government structure is being overwhelmed right now by all those children. Rick Klein, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.